We're going to go ahead and call the regular board meeting for the Costa Mesa Sanitary District to order for June 28th. If you would all please rise and join me in saluting the flag, remembering that 4th of July, the birth of our nation, is next week. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vice President Ferryman.
Bow your heads and join me in prayer. Lord, give us the guidance and the strength to make good decisions for our taxpayers here tonight and protect everybody on this 4th of July. And amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Roll call.
Vice President Michael Schaefer.
Here.
Vice President James Ferryman.
Present.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer.
Here.
Assistant Secretary Robert Uven.
Present.
And Director Arthur Perry.
Here.
Thank you, Nabila. Scott, any late communications? No. Any ceremonial matters for us this evening? Public comments. This is the time set aside for anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the board on items not on the agenda. You have the opportunity to do that now. Seeing none of the three in our audience jumping up, we'll close public comments and move to the consent calendar. Any discussion on the consent calendar?
Move for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, I believe, 5-0. Director Uton? Did you say aye?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear. That motion carries 5-0. Then item D, public hearings. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. President. Steve Hodges is going to give this report.
Steve?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have no increases this year for solid waste or wastewater. However, we are required to have a public hearing that's noticed. And in this hearing, we will hear if anyone objects, and if so, or if not, you guys can still consider whether we're going to file the increases with the assessor, which is due August 10th. And again, there's no increases or solid waste. It's remaining flat.
Thank you. Questions?
Is there going to be a meeting after this to approve that, or do we do that tonight?
If there's no objections, we can approve it tonight, right, Colin?
Correct. The hearing tonight is so somebody can object to the manner that they're being assessed. The fee has already been approved. We already did a 218 approval of the fee. The issue tonight is this is anybody's chance to say, I understand the fee is fine, but it's an assessment, and you're assessing my particular property incorrectly.
And both the resolutions have to be handled separately?
Yes, we're doing an ordinance and a resolution, actually. We have a request from the county auditor for an ordinance, and we have an opinion from legal counsel. I'm sorry. We have a request from the auditor for a resolution. We have an opinion from legal counsel that says we need an ordinance. We're recommending the board do both, so that whoever asks, we can say we have one of each.
Move approval. Second.
Okay, which item are you moving approval on?
Resolution?
E1.
Resolution.
So resolution B on the wastewater?
Wastewater and solid waste together.
I just asked Colin, we have to do them separately.
Okay, then not the wastewater.
Okay. We had a motion by Uton, second by Schaefer, Arlene Schaefer. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Then the resolution and the ordinance together pass 5-0.
That was the motion.
Okay. And then I need a motion for resolution A on the solid waste.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then the ordinance and resolution for solid waste are also approved. Thank you both very much. Section E, Scott, I'm going to go ahead and start with 1.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. So tonight before you is a consideration of approving CR&R Environmental Services Agreement. As you know, staff and CR&R officials have been working hard and diligently on coming up with agreeing with the terms to our new agreement. We presented you the progress we're being made on March 13th. We believe we have come to 99% of all the terms of the agreement that we agreed to. There's just one item that we have a disagreement on and need your direction, which I'll get to in a second. But let me, for the public's benefit, let me describe what is new in the agreement and some new services that CR&R will provide. One of those new services is a district-wide door-to-door household hazardous waste collection program, where each household will be allowed 3 pickups per year with a maximum of 15 gallons or 125 pounds per pickup. Right now, the door-to-door program is just available to seniors. So now, if you're not a senior, before this contract is approved, anyone other than seniors have to go to the drop-off site over at Huntington Beach, which is a bit of a drive, believe it or not. I've done that myself. It's a bit of a drive from here. So now residents can call in and get 3 pickups at their homes, which is a nice service. In addition, there's a free mulch event. Once a year, CR&R will provide free mulch to residents in the springtime. So basically, it'll be in a bag. Do you remember how big it would be? The size of the bag was like 35 pounds or something like that? 35 pounds, 3 bags each. Yeah, 35 pounds, 3 bags each. So they just pull up and get a bag, and off they go. So it'll be nice.
Here at the district?
Yes. We haven't decided what location yet. It'll be somewhere where it'll be easy access in and out. Well, maybe the yard might be a location.
Maybe your OCC recycling or something.
Maybe.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
It'll be easy in, easy out.
Exactly.
The yard is pretty tough sometimes.
Well, the only way I was thinking of that is now that we have the new gate there, it's with the expansion, it could be a little bit easier, but we'll explore all options. CR&R will reimburse the district $30,000 for the first year of the contract and $35,000 every year after, along with CPI increases, and that will fund various programs, including public education, anti-scavenging, hiring a consultant to evaluate CR&R's performance. As you know, we do an audit of their performance every year, so that fee that we pay for the consultant will be covered by this reimbursement. And then also the money will fund the donations for the very popular alkaline battery recycling program.
Is that separate from the 30,000? Is that 30,000 be part of that for the alkaline program?
Yes. 30,000 first year, 35,000 every year after.
Awesome.
So then, as you know, one of our goals for solid waste is to achieve a 75% diversion. Right now, we're at about 62%, and so CR&R's sustainability coordinator, thank you, will dedicate approximately 20 hours a week promoting solid waste diversion programs in CMSD. And attached in your staff report is more description of what that person will do. There will be a free rollout assistance to seniors and residents with American disabilities. A physician note is required, but once they submit that physician note to us, we will they would contact us, and then we would coordinate with CR&R where they'll get free rollout service. In other words, they would take out the carts for them and bring it back in for them at no cost. And that's for seniors and residents with disabilities. Then we also agreed to a CPI increase, assuming the board will approve that increase. So basically, the way it will work is CR&R will come to us with a CPI increase to the rates, and it's based on 2 of the previous years, and they would have to submit it. It's based on February. From the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim area, and they must submit it to us by April 1st so that if the board approves the CPI, it'll give us enough time to put it in the budget. So we gave an example. For instance, CPI could be implemented by fiscal year 2021 using February 2018 and 2019 annual CPI % changes, respectively. Okay. You need some more. I can have Steve Hodges explain if you need some more clarification on that.
Rough idea what that cost might be.
So we already know what the February 2018 number is. That was 3.6. It's the same number that we use for staff internally. And then obviously we won't know until another 8 months what the February 19 numbers are going to be. But it's probably going to be at least 3% as well.
Has it been historically 3%?
No, this year 3.6%.
In the recession, it was less.
Exactly. But for like the 10 years prior, it was minimal.
There was 1 year where it was 0.1%, you know.
When in that regard, in the report, you're saying that we're going to use the Los Angeles, Anaheim, Long Beach CPI. We had a discussion, remember, when we were talking about the increases about Los Angeles, Anaheim, and Riverside, or Riverside's out of the
Right,
equation on
right.
the CPI, correct?
And we updated that in our policies too.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, because that, not casting anything on Riverside, but that could drop the CPI
Yeah.
incrementally, I
Sure.
think.
Sure. And then, let's see, as far as auditing goes, CNR agrees to allow CMSD to review their financial books, determine their profit margin with CMSD, and we won't disclose that margin to the public, but it'll at least give us a good idea of the profit margin, and it could support a CPI increase if we think if it's warranted. So I think that's a very important to allow us to look at their books, and we think, okay, yeah, the profit margin is below a certain percentage, then we can justify the increase and recommend that to you. So that's very helpful.
Junkie car, I know that.
I heard an alarm go off during a public meeting. It was my car. And when somebody broke into my window and grabbed something out of the glove box.
Oh, that's too bad. And then indemnification. So in our current contract, we have sole active negligence of CMSD, and that's probably the best coverage we can get. And CNR has agreed to continue that for this new contract, which is great. And so that leaves us to the one item that we have a disagreement about, and that's regarding the term of the contract. And in your staff report, there's both options. The first option is staff's recommendation, and that is 10 years with 2 5-year extension options. And the reason why staff supports this is because it gives you options. It doesn't tie your hands. So at the end of the 10 years, whichever, if you're still here in 10 years, a new board, whoever's here in 10 years, you have that option extended for another 5 years, or if you want to go out to bid, you can do that. It doesn't tie your hands. And then you can also, after that additional 5 years, you can extend it another 5 years. So there is a potential for it to be a 20-year contract. And keep in mind, we've already been in service. CNR's been in service with us for over 12 years. So that's a 32 years possible. So that's our recommendation. And we gave you some pros and cons to our recommendation. What CNR is recommending is that a 10-year contract with a 10-year automatic extension as long as CNR is complying and performing to the conditions of the agreement. Well, as you know, we've always done audits and performance of their performance, and they've never been in non-compliance because they're a good company. So they're never going to be compliant. So basically, this is going to be an automatic 20-year agreement. So you're going to have a 32-year agreement if you approve option 2. Staff's opinion, it doesn't give you those options. Your hands are tied. Once you implement recommendation number 2, it's going to be a 20-year agreement. And right now, we're already getting, you hear the comments we see from the public regarding our evergreen clause, right? Well, in my opinion, an automatic 10 years is like another evergreen, in my opinion. So that's something to consider. And I got you the pros and cons on option 2. If you don't like any of those options, there's 3 more options for you to consider if you want to do that tonight. One option is 10 years with 1 5-year extension option, or another option is 10 years with 1 5-year automatic extension, or just a 10 years agreement with no extension. So there's 5 options for you to consider. Pros and cons are all 5 options. That concludes my presentation. I'm sure Dean Ruffich will want some comments for you, but happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I would like Dean to speak, but before we do, are there any questions to Scott from anybody?
I have one, and I think it's a dumb question, but that 6-year notice goes away. It's not part of this.
Correct. Once you enter this agreement,
Its place would be the 10 and 5-5.
correct.
But we wouldn't have an evergreen.
Correct. Now, again, my opinion is, under staff's recommendation, the evergreen's gone. Technically, the evergreen's gone too in option 2, but with an automatic 10 years.
Can I ask a question? Within that 10 years, if something happens that isn't copacetic with both groups, can it end after, say?
Sure, absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. That is already there.
There's a termination clause in there, absolutely.
I mean,
But
there's already a termination clause.
But the termination clause is usually going to use a termination clause if something is egregiously violation of the contract, and CNR's never done that. And I don't plan on.
I know
they're never going to do
I'm
that.
saying that's in there already. The
Yeah,
termination
of course.
clause.
We always have that in all our agreements. We always have a way to opt out.
So it's technically not an evergreen because we can opt out if there's a problem.
Right. Correct.
See what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Arlene?
Yeah, I just had a comment just to be sure that I understand it. The 10 years and then the 5-year. The 5 years automatic thing as long as they abide by what we.
No, the 5-year is your decision. Okay, so there's the first recommendation, the staff's recommendation. You have the 10 years, right? And after that 10 years, you have an option to extend it for 5 years. You can extend that if you want to or not. It's up to you. Under CNR's proposal, it's after the 10 years, it's automatic 10-year extension without your approval. It just kicks in. Does not need your approval.
I thought what it is 10-year, then the 5 years means that as long as everything, they meet all the requirements that we said, then they get the 5 years.
It's based on your approval. You still have to approve that.
Then after that is another 5 years.
Correct.
On that second 5 years is when we can, as a board, decide what we want to do with this.
You can do that. No, you can do that after the 10 years. So after the 10 years on the staff's recommendation, after 10 years, we come to you and we say, board, what do you want to do? Do you want to extend this for another 5 years, or do you want to put this contract out to bid? What do you want to do? And you say, okay, we're going to go do it for another 5 years. Okay, great. We extend it for another 5 years. Then after that 5 years, we come back to you and say, board, what do you want to do? Do you want to extend it for another 5 years, or do you want to go out the contract? And say, okay, we're going to extend it for another 5 years. Great. Now you got a 20-year contract, and then we do this whole thing again, negotiate, or whatever you want to do is go out to bid. But under staff's recommendation, after 10 years, we come to you for direction, extend another 5 years or not. Then after that 5 years, we come back to you, extend it for another 5 years or not. Under CNR's program, after 10 years, it just additional 10 years kicks in without your approval. It just kicks in as long as they're in compliance with their contract.
So you're asking for, are we going to listen to CRNR?
Yeah, you'll listen, yes, and then we need directions. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And then we can make a decision.
Right, we need your direction, yes. Correct.
Bob, you had a question?
Well, I had a question, not on the term of the agreement, but Scott, you were saying that the audit would give us a different look at whether the CIP request is justifiable. I don't see the connection. What does the audit do? The audit basically just gives us a look at their finances.
It looks at their profit margin too. You know, I mean, I'm just throwing this out in there, and I'm not saying this is anything but see. But let's say you're looking at a company has a 20% profit margin. Is that something you want to give them another increase? I don't know, but it's something, you know. If it's, let's say if the profit margin is less than 5%, okay, maybe that's something we can support and say, board, okay, you know, in our opinion, we saw it and it's justifiable. You know, they're just making a minimal amount of money. You know, it's up, but it's totally up to you. You know, but it can help us. It helps staff determine the justification for a CPI. It really would. Would you agree with that, Steve?
Yes, exactly. It's basically whether the CPI going to contribute to, like, basically be pure profit for them, or is it going to help them keep operations sustainable for them?
Under it's option 2, the 10 years with the 10-year automatic extension. At the end of the 10 years, if we decide at the end of the first 10 years, there's an opt-out that says if they're not complying, or if they're, give me some examples of what would allow us to get out of the contract. I read the report. I mean, there's some non-compliance, and
I would say, you know, if we're getting a lot of complaints from the public for not picking up their trash, you know, and I'm saying a lot. You know, we're talking like, you know, hundreds and hundreds. I mean.
Let me ask Colin, how hard would it be to prove that they were non-compliant?
We have to actually get the testimony of the resident and complaint.
But whatever it is, there's some work involved. Yeah. And if we were to go to them and say, hey, you're non-compliant, here's why, aren't they probably going to take legal action against us for trying to end if they don't agree with the non-compliance?
They could. They can file a breach of contract action saying that the unjust, the extended contract.
Okay. Didn't we talk about, and I don't know why we would do this, but under number 2, I thought originally we had talked about a 10-year and then 2 5-year automatics.
That's what I said.
That's what I
Two
thought.
Is that now just lumped into one 10-year automatic?
Yes, that was, yes.
Well, it could be whatever.
No.
He's not
I think we can make it whatever we want.
That's our option.
Yeah.
Well, you know, my thought on that was, on the first 5-year, make it kind of similar to the first 10-year thing, and then, for the last 5 years, give us a break, and, we can just leave it to our board to make the decision.
Well, that's the way I thought it was.
So you would say a 10-year with an automatic 5 and then a non-automatic 5 after that,
Well, but,
essentially.
yeah, you still can't, you still have to protect yourself or prove your argument, I
We
think.
have to comply with whatever
Yeah.
our
Well,
contract says.
yeah, and that,
If they do that, it's automatic.
think about it, that could be in the first 10-year.
That's what I'm
There's
saying.
some non-compliance things in it.
Exactly right, that's why, I'd like to hear from Dean whenever it's appropriate.
Yeah, as long as everybody done with their questions at Bob?
Well, basically, we entered into a 10-year agreement with a 6-year evergreen. And the board chose not to implement the evergreen. So now we're headed towards a minimum of 18 years or longer, because the only way out of the present contract is to implement the evergreen. So this, if it doesn't get negotiated, pretty soon we're at a 20-year agreement. And we still may not choose to implement the evergreen, then we've someday got to negotiate an extension. But we're headed towards almost an automatic 20-year contract as it is. The way we've chosen to handle it.
But all of these proposals, there is nothing that says evergreen.
No, I'm talking about the present. We're negotiating a new contract, but in the contract we're working under has a 6-year evergreen. We didn't implement it at the end of 10 years.
Yeah.
And we didn't implement it at the end of 12 years. And it'll be 13 before
It's because
this
we
kicks
get
in.
great services, we have a great product, that's the reason.
Yeah, there's no question, I think even Scott confirmed that. There's no unhappiness, and the concessions and the new things that we're getting are all beneficial to the residents. There's no question about that.
These 7 or 8 items are unbelievably great for the citizens of Costa Mesa, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, before we talk, I'd love to hear Dean
Oh, yeah, I
first,
would
and
too.
then-
Like I said, once everybody's had their chance,
Well, we need
One
another
other thing.
chance later.
That the part of the contract that says we're going to get a sustainability expert to help us 20 hours a week. Basically, that's a $50,000 a year commitment or more. And there is nothing that says it's like it has no teeth. It doesn't say that that 20-year consultant and the districts are going to achieve anything. It just means somebody's spending 20 hours a week, and then there is a plan, and a few residents will look at what we put out in the newsletter on the website and the various other things. But basically, I think the plan is a good one. I'm astounded that CR&R will give us $50,000 a year person to help us implement it.
Plus the $30,000 or $35,000 a year, which is to pay for other programs, it's pretty substantial. And I'm surprised too.
Well, one, I'd like to see some teeth in it. We have.
We proved the contract, we have teeth in it.
Well, no, there's nothing in there that says they do anything more than the 10 or 12 things that were listed in the plan, which means X number of people will get behind it and help us meet the goal. The goal is not even stated. But the goal should be 75% removal or recovery that the state mandates.
That's our goal already, but we know it's going to be difficult to do it because of the city.
I know.
Because they do 60% of it.
Well, what I'd like to hear from CRNR is how they're going to manage to do the 32 other entities to get them to.
No, but we're just concerned about Costa Mesa.
Yep, every other entity though is facing the same opportunity.
That's why we have CRNR, because those other entities can't do what we're doing now. Do you agree?
I know several of them can't even meet the 50%, and there's no penalty for not doing anything state-wise.
But that may change in 2020.
I don't see them growing any.
But that's what we're shooting for.
I know.
All right, if there's no other questions, I'm sure, Mr. Ruffridge, you'd like to speak to the board. It's your opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. President, board members. Dane Ruffridge with CRNR. It's a pleasure to see you all again tonight. And it's a pleasure to hopefully see this negotiation become finalized tonight. It's been quite a while with your staff and negotiations. I think we've come up with a very good contract with only one item that some people might think is major, but one item that we need resolution on tonight. The concessions are substantial. I agree with you, and your general manager has been quite reluctant on giving up any of this, but I think the HHW curbside collection is a pretty substantial program. We do this in a number of cities, as you know, and the charge is typically anywhere from 31 cents to 51 cents per month per household. So that's a substantial concession, as well as our sustainability coordinator eliminating the Evergreen contract, which when it was issued years and years ago was quite I would say a concession on the board's part to give to the contractor, because that allows the contractor to finance what he needs, go to the bank and say, I've got a 6-year Evergreen contract, it's not going to be canceled next week, and so forth. So it allows us from a financing standpoint to do quite a bit. The 10-year proposal, the initial term, I guess it's called in the contract, we are in agreement. The 2 5-year options, staff is suggesting that they be sole options of the board. In other words, at the end of 10 years, we'll come to you and we'll ask for the 5-year extension. It becomes a public hearing. It may become a political issue, and it may become a political issue on the second 5-year term. We try to negotiate with your staff to try to get away from those types of issues, and in doing so, it's very tight on compliance and performance, and it's extremely tight on rates. Your staff did negotiate out reviewing our books, looking at our financials, seeing what our profit margin is before any adjustment can be made. And again, going back, I want to talk a little bit about this contract being a residential contract and not a citywide contract. And as we've talked about before, in a lot of our contracts where we might have a residential rate, let's say several dollars less than this, the commercial part of that contract is where the money is made. And we do not have that luxury or that privilege here in the city of Costa Mesa. As such, I suggested 2 5-year extensions that would both come to you as a board for a review, but they would be more or less an automatic. If we're doing everything that we should be doing, our rates are reviewed, our rates are within that 10% median, which is in the contract. Your rates can never exceed that 10% median of the county, of any county municipality. I think it's 32 or 34 cities. So you're rate protected, your performance protected, your diversion protected. As such, I thought, and I still feel, that the 5-year extensions could be automatic, but subject to board approval, of course. And the last thing Mr. Carroll got out of me is that we're going to reimburse you for those audits. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So with that, I'll leave it open to the board if you have any questions of me.
Questions for Dean?
Just a comment. At the last liaison meeting, we talked to a couple of the city council members at the end of the meeting, because they need to rate, we would help them. They just didn't want to lose the revenue, but we said, like we presented to them before, Scott, remember, we would take care of it and they would still get the revenue from it, but we would just manage it for them. So I think maybe it's proper, sometime we talk about that to them again.
Yeah, I think we said we talk after the elections.
No,
We were gonna
yeah, after the election,
we
but I'm
were
just saying,
gonna wait
that
till
could
next
be
year.
something beneficial for us, for our rates,
Yeah, I think on the, if I could comment on that, on our commercial bills that we send out to commercial businesses and multifamily here in the city, there's a separate line item that I want to call it a city tax, but I think they call it a city fee. And it went up a couple of years ago to about 16%, I believe. So that would still be on the bill, that whenever that came in, if you did happen to take over commercial, that would be automatically just deposited in a city account. You could continue doing that. And with the commercial revenues, it would definitely be able to what's the word, Scott, enhance the residential rate?
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that.
How would that affect us, though, with the contract tonight?
That won't affect tonight, no. That could be done as an amendment in the future if it ever happened, but
Amended and be
yeah.
okay?
yes. Yeah, this contract is, I think Mr. Burns will agree, the contracts of this nature can easily be amended based upon revision in services or different aspects of it, so it can be amended very easily.
We did that with the organics recycling. We amended the contract.
Pardon me?
The organics recycling, we did that.
Absolutely, that was an amendment to the existing contract. Good point.
Scott, I think I read somewhere in the agenda report that we have an agreement with the city, 1993 agreement. Basically, I thought the wording was that we're not obligated to meet the 75% requirement. Our 17% of the tonnage.
I mean, that's true. I mean, it's the obligation. It's actually now it's the per capita disposal rate. It's how the states is identifying compliance with AB 939, and it's up to the cities to deal with that, not us. So if we want to, if we want to lower our diversion capacity, saying, hey, we just want to hit 60%, we can do that.
Does the city expect us to meet 75%?
No.
Have we had any discussions with the city in that regard?
No, we haven't.
I think we should, but Dean, in general, the 34 entities that you serve, does CR&R have in place means for them all to come into compliance with the 75% diversion rate at 2020?
We don't have any cities that talk about a 75% diversion except this one as a goal in your strategic plan. Pars and I have been working together for the last couple of days, and we've come up with an internal goal. Your organics right now is averaging around 800 a month tons, and with the auditing that we've got proposed in the sustainability plan of the carts and leaving notes and so forth, we're expecting to get it up to around $1,000 tons by this time next year, and that's our internal goal, and we think we can do it. That'll. You got to remember, at 62%, you're the highest residential diversion rate in the whole county. There's no other city that does what you do. So, getting to 75%, another 13%, is it doable? By gosh, if it is, we're going to get it done with the help of your staff.
Any other questions for Dean? Thank you. And I'm sure that others may pop up, so don't glue yourself to the
Don't leave.
Don't glue yourself. Okay, other discussion?
I think we need to have a motion presented.
Before we do a motion, I just had a couple comments I wanted to make. The recommendation from staff, I'll be just, is more appealing to me. The fact that we have the flexibility at the end of the 10 years makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I'm not going to be here in 10 years. I don't, at least I don't think I'm going to be here in 10 years. Not like you old timers that have been here for.
Don't start with me.
I don't feel comfortable with a 20-year, to me, item 2, the one that CR&R wants, is a 20-year contract, plain and simple. It's a 20-year contract. We've taken a lot of heat over the last 8 years that I've been up here on having the evergreen, on having, not gone out to bid. And I don't care who says it. I mean, it isn't just a couple of people saying that. People say it to us, to me, and to all of you quite a bit. I don't feel comfortable telling the next generation of board members and the next generation of ratepayers, we're with these guys as good as they are, and there's no argument from any of the 5 of us on how good they are and what they do for us. There is no argument on that. But to tell people we're going to be with them for 20 more years makes me uncomfortable. I understand we have a non-compliance, so we can get out of the contract after 10 years, but I think trying to do that would be extremely difficult and probably some legal ramifications. I appreciate the comment that Dee made about it being a political issue after the 10 years. It's a political issue now. I mean, we have a reporter here tonight, and I know why he's here, because we're doing this contract. And when people in town read that we approved a 10-year contract plus another automatic 10-year contract, I think we're going to get some heat for it. So to me, I'm more inclined to support staff's recommendation. I have no doubt that in 10 years that they're going to be performing to the same standard that they're performing now, giving us the benefits now. They've given up a lot to get to this point. I mean, you all have said that. It's obvious with the concessions we have. But to me, the ability to have the flexibility at the end of the 10 years, we're probably going to use them again. I really don't have any doubt about that. But me having the flexibility, or the board that's here in 10 years having the flexibility, makes me more comfortable. So that's my humble opinion.
Okay. I just wanted to make a comment too then. Actually, we've been with them for 10 years now.
12.
12? Oh, I thought it was 10. Wow, it's more. Okay, so anyway, we've been with them that long, and in that time period, they've done a lot for us as far as financially helping us. Now, I know the school program for the recycling and of the batteries, say, or the newspapers before that, and I know going there and us giving presentations, how the parents felt. They were so excited that we're giving something to the school. We could only do that through a program like this that we had. That's just one of the programs, let alone a lot of other programs that we've listed here. I feel comfortable doing the 10-year. I really do, and with 2 5s. 1 5, in my opinion, this is what I feel, that the 1 5 is an automatic if they abide by all that we put in that contract. If they did all that, yes, then we give them another 5. The next 5 is the one that we get hold of, and we're able to negotiate what we want to do. If we feel comfortable with it, if we don't, and we want to try for another, then I think we should give them like a 6-year kind of warning that, in 6 years, we'll have somebody else will go out to bid.
So what you're advocating is to continue the evergreen.
After 15 years, she's talking about.
Yeah.
So it'd be a 15-year and then a 6-year evergreen after that. Or a 5-year evergreen, whatever.
That's a possibility, but it may not occur like that.
But I don't like the word evergreen. I just,
It'd just be,
It's an evergreen.
she's saying 10 and 5 for sure, and then 5 you renegotiate.
Said earlier, yeah.
so, anyway, that's my opinion.
Well, I don't think we have any contracts where, and I don't remember any at the Orange County Sand Districts where there were extensions that didn't receive board approval. I think it's just for functionary. I expect them, to gain board approval reasonably automatically. We asked Mike and President Schaefer asked, how could they fail in this regard? They're not going to fail in this regard. I don't think there's a lot of risk for them to go with the 10 and the extensions. We have an auditor, and you know, every year the board has to approve that extension. You know, we have Orange County Sand District has many contracts, but they still have to have board approval, you know, to get the extension. That I don't think it's ever automatic. I trust CNR is going to. It'll be a win-win no matter what. It'll just be an agenda item at the end of 10 years, and staff will either give us or give that board pause, or we'll extend it.
I have one more thing to add before. That is that actually being the first in, we get the best financial benefit of it. No other agency or in Orange County can get what we get. You know,
Sure.
That's what we'd be taking away.
Is that still part of the contract?
Yes.
That wouldn't change with this contract. Okay, Jimmy.
We've got we're in the driver's seat. You know, I mean, no matter what configuration we use here, the end effect is going to be the same. And, you know, I don't know about you, well, I do know about you guys. If for some reason they don't perform, you know, we're not going to hesitate to pull the trigger. And politically down the road, say in 5 or 10 years, the makeup of this board is going to be completely different. They may be at odds with CRNR, or they may be a champion for them. But at that point, they're representing the populace and what they're thinking. I mean, theoretically, that's what is supposed to be happening. So, I mean, I think what we're talking about is just rhetoric and BS, and I think it should just be a 10-year with 2 5-year options, and we've got control all the way. We can fire them if we have to.
In my position is we go with the 10-year and the 5 and 5 automatic. I see nothing wrong.
Well, you can't say automatic.
No, but it's still with a review. As long as they're fulfilling all the obligations to the district.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I feel.
So in essence,
I feel the same way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what
you're looking at option 2 with 10 years. With
Yeah,
10
that's what I'm looking for. I mean, that would be the recommendation I would make.
Not a motion.
That'd be a motion, and we'll see if it gets a
Wait.
second.
I think you and Art said something different.
We did.
Yeah,
Art's advocating option 2, and I'm advocating option 1.
Are you Art?
Yes, I'm option 2.
Option 2?
Option 2. Just because of the past performance, all the things we're going to be getting, and the reputation of CRNR. And then we're going to look at their books. That's the key factor right there. And, you know, it's going to change our rates if need be. That's just me. I haven't really talked to anybody about it, really.
No, that's fine.
Well, I would make a motion that we, you already did that?
Option 2, yeah, option 2.
Option 2.
I mean, we didn't have a second yet.
I'll second that.
And Mr. President, before the board votes, that's a modified option 2. It's not 10 years with an automatic 10-year extension. It's 10 years with 2 automatic 5-year extensions.
Yes. Is that option 2, Scott?
Well, the way the option 2 is written right now is that it's 10 years and then 10-year automatic. So what I'm hearing is what the board wants is 10 years and then come before the board and then approve a 5-year, right? Assuming as long as they're in compliance and performing, then then that 5 will kick in, and after the 5, as long as they're in compliance, another 5 automatically kicks in. Yeah.
That's where I was coming
And
from with
what
my
happens
motion.
with the second 5? That's
Same
when,
thing.
That'd be automatic too.
It's a 10 and 10, bottom
when
line.
we're able to talk about it a little more.
So, did you make a second of that, Jim, or not?
Yes.
Yeah. So the motion by Director Perry to go with option 2, second by Vice President Ferryman. Any other discussion? Can we poll this for vote, please?
Call their names, and they'll say it.
President Michael Schieffer,
I'm voting no.
Vice President James Ferryman,
Yes.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer,
Yes.
Assistant Secretary Robert Uten,
Yes.
and Director Arthur Perry.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion passes 4-1 with President Schaefer voting no. Okay.
Just to clarify, that's 2 5-year automatic extensions based on their compliance with their performance of the contract.
Yes.
And we still bring that to the board, though, and say, hey, they're in compliance, automatic
Yeah,
5, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. So then we're done with the negotiations on the contract, Scott?
Yes.
And then we'll come back for signature when you have it all prepared?
No, I think you're approving it right now, so we'll just get ready for you to sign it, and
Yeah.
we're good to go. We don't have to bring it back for board
I
approval.
didn't mean that.
Yeah.
I meant for signature.
Yes,
Okay, Jim.
yes.
I'd just like to say, Scott, when you get a chance,
Yes.
I'd just like to say thank you for your efforts in this negotiation. I mean, you know, it'd be tough fighting this guy tooth and nail like Dean, and thanks for your perseverance too, because you know, going through this is not probably a pleasant experience. But we thank you and look forward to working with your company for years to come.
Yeah, I don't want my negative vote to be construed as anything opposed to what CR&R. You guys are wonderful partners, always have been. I think I gave my reasons for not wanting it, and that's just my opinion. Thank you, Jim, for saying that about Scott. But I think we need to also look at this young lady at the end of the table, who has done the yeoman's work in this, and Nabila. I know this was for such a new employee.
It's a team effort. It's a team effort.
Done an
Yes.
excellent job. And,
Yeah. Steve helped out too. It's been a team effort. Yes.
The important thing is, this is a historical moment.
It is. This is the best contract you've ever had, by
How
far.
long this has been, a lot of us know, back and
This
forth,
is a great contract.
so it really is.
Can't wait to.
When will the contract be effective? When will the contract be effective? I mean, it's got to be rewritten.
That's a good question. Thank you, first of all, Mr. President and the board. I appreciate this. We look forward to a long-term relationship, and that was a question I was going to throw out. Typically, a lot of these HHW things don't start for 6 months because I've got to go through the permitting. But we've already done that with what we're already doing. So, subject to,
Can we go July 1?
I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean we can. As long as
So
we
if
can
you want to
July
start
1.
this next week, I'm fine with it.
I know we've got to get the word out to everybody, though. That's, may not, we could get started, but it may not get the word out. Luke gets it in the
I
paper.
was going to say, with the fourth estate here, I'm sure we'll have the word out.
Well, I think we get the contracts. Once it's all signed, let's get it signed next week. It's in effect.
Yeah.
We have a,
I'll plan on having have all of our customer service reps together next week before the 4th, sit them down and go through the contract with them so they can change their spiels as people call in. And it might not be bad to have Nabilia with us on that one. If you could get away for an hour from Scott, maybe.
I would like that.
That'd be a blessing.
But I think it's important we're all on the same page because Nabilia takes a lot of phone calls also. And people have been accustomed to that. We take a lot of phone calls and we interact back and forth on a daily basis. So we look forward to that.
Thank you, Dean, very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to item E2.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. This is really a formality. So we you adopted the resolutions for the solid waste and wastewater rates. Now you need to adopt the ordinance confirming the annual charges. So this is ordinance number 118.
Both, not individual.
Yes, correct.
Any questions on item 2?
Do we need a motion?
We need a motion to approve the ordinance.
Move for approval of the ordinance.
Second.
118.
Second.
Motion a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, item 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a request to send Nabila Guzman, our staff, to Nashville, Tennessee, to attend the SWANA annual waste conference. This is their big conference of the year. I think we believe this will be very, very beneficial to Nabila and to the organization. Looking at their programs, they have some very good educational programs, such as waste to preventing plastics from entering the ocean, the power of social media for dealing with solid waste issues, the changing market for recyclable materials. There's also a session about organic recycling. So we believe this is a worthwhile conference for Nabila to go, and so recommending board approval.
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second before we take a vote. This is the same conference that former board member Fitzpatrick and I and
Joan. Yeah.
Revac went to.
Same hotel, Nashville. Yeah.
The only request I have is that Nabila has to wear an ankle bracelet to prevent her from going to all those honky tonks down on.
No, I think Nabila, you should go to the Grand Ole Opry. It's the longest running radio program in history, and it's downtown now, unless they've got the hotel renovated. Which hotel did you stay in?
We stayed at the Gaylord. Are you staying at the Gaylord?
It is right across.
It's the most amazing hotel you'll ever stay at, I guarantee it.
Yeah, I've been there.
What was your opinion of that conference when you went?
Now that we're done with the silliness, it was a great conference. The exhibit hall, wear comfortable shoes because it's massive, and they had all the trucks and all the stuff. They take an extra bag to put all the goodies they give you, all the little trinkets and things. But it's one of the better conferences I think we've been to. So I'm glad to hear we support it. Let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Enjoy yourself. Okay, item 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is another another out-of-state travel request for approval, and this is for Steve Connell, our wastewater maintenance superintendent, and Jesse Blakely, our wastewater maintenance 2, to attend the Water Environment Federation Technical Exhibition and Conference, or WEFTEC, and this is in New Orleans, Louisiana. And again, this is like WasteCon is to solid waste as their biggest conference in the country. This is WEFTEC is the biggest wastewater conference in the country, and there are again some very beneficial educational programs for collection systems, such as there's an infiltration and inflow modeling tool and best practices for establishing effective reduction and remediation programs. There's also a program on managing private property issues in the collection system. There's another educational seminar about collection systems, sewer condition assessments, and then there's another one about emerging technology. So again, I think this is a very worthwhile conference for staff to attend. I think they'll bring back some good information for us.
Move for approval.
Second.
Question?
Yeah, I'm all in favor of at least sending one. What is the justification to send 2 staff?
Well, it's in the we did budget it. One's in the budget. We anticipate sending 2. Second one, we're sending Jesse as more of a as a reward for his efforts. He's gone over and beyond on his trainings in the wastewater profession. So it's good for other staff members to go, especially those that have expressed an interest in learning more and being a lifelong learner. So I think it's a benefit for all of us.
Well, I think CWA offers substantial complementary benefits. I'd just be hesitant in the future to send 2 people out of state. I support this action.
Okay.
But I think the California Water Environment Association has very, very outstanding educational programs. Steve was collection person of the year locally. Was he also the state? Did he win the state? We've actually had 3 employees collection system of the year. Locally. This year it was Brandon Hickman. This year locally on SARBS. And then last year it was Joel Ortiz locally on SARS, but he did not win the statewide. And then a couple years back it was Steve, but again he did not win statewide. So we actually had 3 employees win collection system of the year, collection person of the year from SARBS. Has anyone besides Steve attended the California Water and Environment Association meeting? Yes, Brandon Hickman has attended that. Yes. I'd suggest supporting that. And I'm sorry, excuse me. I think Joel Ortiz attended too. So yes, we've had usually send. Okay. Typically, we'll send two employees to the CWA conference.
So one's going to Nashville and 2 are going to New Orleans.
Yes.
They come back with beads. I want to know what. We had a motion, the second, Jim seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is for a Warning's idea submission for Nolani Midway for $100 for her idea to improve customer service with CR&R Environmental Services. Right before Nolani's recommendation, residents could request services from the district by logging in, into our website, and those services could be like requesting additional cart, or maybe a missed trash collections. It could be any additional services that they needed from CR&R. And what happens is once the service is sent on our website, it goes directly to the staff, and then we forward it to CR&R. So Nolani's idea was to cut out the middleman, us. And so now when she created an account for CR&R, so when residents submit a service request, it goes directly to CR&R. And then CR&R keeps a record of it. We have a copy of the record, so we can also see how fast they respond, so we can keep that data as well. So it's a really improved efficiencies for our customers. And so that's why I'm recommending Nolani $100 for her idea.
Question, if a customer sends it in, do they send it through an email?
Yes.
And it goes directly to
CR&R.
Do we get a copy of that?
Yes, we do see that.
At the same time?
Yeah, we see that, yes.
It goes directly to them?
Yes.
It's very good.
Anything like this, the streamlined stuff, I think is well worth the $100.
Surprised it's only 100, but.
Well, I'd recommend that we delay this action until she's here.
I don't think you have any support on that. Do we have a motion on this item?
That's a check.
Motion to approve. Second. Art seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, tell her not to spend it all in one place. Now we'll go to item 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this is the upcoming elections for the California Special District Association. The Southern Network Seat E is up for re-elections, and there are 2 candidates for that seat. The incumbent is Joe McKenzie from the Vista Irrigation District, and then, I'm sorry, my staff report's not popping up, but the other candidate I think is from there we go. I wish I could just read it on the screen there. Big Bear Airport District. So CSDA is doing a different election procedures. It's all electronically now. There's no mail-in ballot. So what staff is seeking is your direction, which candidates that you support, and then staff will go ahead and submit that electronically to CSDA.
Move we support Joe McKenzie.
I'd second it.
Any discussion on that?
I think we met the gentleman from Big Bear.
Yeah, I did.
We met him. He seems like a pretty good candidate, but I think Joe McKenzie's probably more outstanding.
She's
There's no
so
way to-
wound up. She's chair of the finance.
No, I agree, but I think the candidate from
Yeah,
Big
that
Bear,
guy's good,
he was
too.
a pretty good guy too. So in the future.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second to support Joe McKenzie for seat A on the CSDA Southern Section. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I had a question. Where's the CSDA nominations for?
There's attachment in your staff report that the nominations.
In print it?
I can't believe I printed all this thick stuff.
Yeah, I see it's right. It's right there.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, that was in there.
Oh, here. But I'm adding one more.
No, we can't add for you're talking about. I think you're talking about the nomination for awards.
Yeah,
That's down on the later on the agenda.
that's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
We're
Okay.
not there yet.
Okay.
Before we go to the engineer's report, Rob, can I ask your indulgence and let us do the attorney's report first?
Sure.
Director Uden may have to leave, and this one may take a long time to discuss.
Great.
So, Colin, I'll have you take over.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under the Brown Act, any increase to an executive's compensation is required to be done during an open session of a public meeting. For that reason, I'm making a report to the board that our recommendation is that the district manager, the general manager, receive a 1% salary increase. The 1% would take into a total salary of, my actual screen isn't coming up either. Thank you. $291,341.
Any discussion on the recommended action?
That's compensation and not benefits, right?
I just feel it's too low, personally. 1% is, unheard of, but if that's what he agreed to with your negotiations. But
I'll just make a comment. I agree it's too low, but Mr. Carroll is very adamant that he wants it at that level, or didn't even want it at that level. We had to twist his arm to take the 1%. There was a Facebook posting from CSDA the other day, and it was about the General Manager's Leadership Summit up in Lake Tahoe this last weekend. And so I made a comment to Megan Hemming, how did Scott do, and you received quite a compliment from Megan for your active leadership. Scott taught a class last Sunday, I believe, right?
Yes, last Sunday.
So you want to be a general manager? And I since talked to a couple of our SDR MA board members who were there, and congratulations.
Thank you.
You knocked it out of the park with them, and I think all 5 of us are very pleased and proud of what you're doing in that regard. And I do agree with Art that 1% isn't enough, and we appreciate your hard work and patience with us as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your support.
the patience with
Mostly
us.
the patience with us, yeah. All right, we have a motion by Director Perry. We have a second.
Second.
Arlene seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Incidentally, that is retroactive to March 1st.
January 1st.
No, January. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Steve, you have all those details then, I assume. Very good. Thank you, Colin. Anything else for us on the attorney's report this evening? So just closed session a little bit. All right, then Rob, engineer's report, please.
Thank you, Mr. President and board members. So the first item is our capital improvement project status report. And glad to report that the yard expansion is complete. Can you try to pull up the pictures, Nabila, of the lettering? So that's so
outstanding.
It came out great. So that's what it looks like from the Fairview roadside. And
Okay, good.
that's it on the pictures. Of course, there's all the improvements on the inside. We took down some of the wall and upgraded the Hitchcrafters property to work well with the existing yard, and our guys are very happy about that. It's very rare that the lot next to your lot becomes available, like when we were at the old headquarters and we were dying for new parking, but we couldn't get it. But this is great that the property next to our yard came open because we desperately needed the space. So we've done the minimum to have it be both properties working together. As we move forward, there are other things to be done. We have a building there. At some point in time, we want to combine the two parcels that legally into one parcel. We also have some improvements that need to be done, et cetera, et cetera. So long term, we're in great shape. So happy to report that the project is complete for now.
I have a question. Okay, so you're on Fairview. You can look at that. Did they have to remove any trees at all?
No.
Pardon me?
Not at that portion, I don't think. I think that was pretty open.
Yeah, that's the only area that is open on the Hitchcrafters.
That was his exit driveway was right there.
Right.
This is it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to compliment on that. I go get my car serviced right there. And I'm looking there, and it's so neat looking. And even the people that I was talking to, they said, wow, the letters are more than we thought they'd be. It's really nice. It's done very well. You can see it from all 4 corners of everything. It's really nice.
Now, where are the board members' names going to go? Are they going to go below it, or?
Well, if you put a new building on there, we can definitely put your name on it.
Spray painted on there.
Yeah. That picture of the guys Make sure it gets on the Facebook page.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
That's good.
That's an outstanding picture. And none of them are flashing any signs with their fingers or anything. They're all, you know what I mean? So. I don't use stuff.
Well,
I don't know how to.
it looked like they're smiling with their eyes.
Maybe Luke could take a picture.
That actually should go in a frame at the yard.
I think it should. If you can get a picture, put it at the yard.
Yeah, actually, someone put I think it was that picture and put it in a frame. It's in my office right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, put it in my office.
But in a frame?
Yeah, in a frame. Someone did it. Was it you?
That looks really good, Rob. Thank you. Thank you for your efforts on it.
Very good.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. So and otherwise on the project status report, we're getting ready to go out to bid on President Pump Station. And then right behind that, we're going to go out with Canyon Force Main and Canyon Pump Station also. So we're going to be those are some large projects, so we'll be busy there too.
The Canyon's no dig, no rip up the street. It's
right, we're going to directional drill that force main also.
What did you figure out a timetable that you're going to, remember we talked about when you're going to do it? Because that street is always busy.
We have not concluded that. What we're doing is we set our timetable to go out to bid with President Pump Station, and once we get it out to bid, we're going to make the schedule for the Canyon project. And we've already set the dates for President. We just need to adhere to them, and then at the same time, we're finishing up the plan. So we'll be making the timetable very shortly.
Do you have to coordinate that with the city?
Yes. We will be doing quite a bit of coordination. And actually, we could just jump to item 4 if you wanted. That was, and then we can come back and get 2 and 3. Item 4, since we're talking about Canyon Force Main and the pump station, well, maybe we should receive and file the project status report first. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, so done. Go ahead.
Okay, so item 4 is, we had this at the study session this month. The request is to combine these two projects because we're going to be in the same area, and we don't want to have to shut down portions of the street and have traffic problems and parking and all, and then button up one project and then come back in there and do the exact same thing. We won't look so good. So we discussed this during the study session. There didn't appear to be any opposition, but the request for number 4 is to combine those two capital projects into one.
Move approval.
Second.
Can you make sure that is of items 1 and 2, please?
Both items?
Yes.
Okay. Art? Both items?
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you kindly. So back to item 2. Item 2 is a conflict of interest. I'm reporting that I was retained for the project at 1618 Ohms Way, Costa Mesa, and the extent of my work is drawing water improvement plans. So not doing any sewer work, just water improvement plans. And they're doing a tenant improvement there.
Rob, why do you have to report that then?
It's conflict of interest.
Because even if I don't prepare a sewer plan, I could, because they're actually paying me money.
Yeah.
I don't want to be making any decisions with anything with regard to their project.
Okay.
Might it be fees or what they should and shouldn't do with their sewer lateral? The conflict of interest extends beyond having to do sewer work.
Okay.
It's more of a general contractual relationship. And I did speak with that to Alan early when we developed this procedure. So I made that declaration. Okay, thank you. Last item, number 3, Project 318, President Pump Station. This was also discussed at the study session, and from the legal side of the issue, Alan Burns did quite a bit of work on the staff report, meaning a lot of it is his language so that we made sure it was perfectly well written. So as mentioned in the staff report, we have done this sole source finding for pumps and miscellaneous items from Flight Corporation so that we have flight pumps in all the stations, and the field crews are familiar with them and can respond to emergencies and keep the stations in operation. So the request is the items as shown there.
Move approval.
Motion approval. Are there other, as we've talked about this for the pumps, are there other things that we need to look at this kind of idea, or is it really just the major, like the pump?
I think that would be a great question for Colin, because we follow the government code, and it does say in our enabling legislation that we're supposed to accept an or equal, and we're supposed to say that in the plans and all. However, I see quite a few agencies where they don't even put or equal or anything. They just bid what's on the plans, and it's taken for granted that if they try to deviate, it won't be accepted. So I see it going the other way, but we're following the law as Alan sees it, and Colin may have some comment there.
I agree with that. We're supposed to put or equal. There are some things where you need to do a sole source because you don't want to have redundancy. You don't want to have two separate sets of redundant equipment in case the pump fails. You don't want to train people in two different pieces of equipment. So you have to make a case-by-case judgment.
Okay.
We can probably do sole source a little more than we do now, but it's justified in cases that Rob was talking about. And if you want to do a little bit more expanded sole sourcing, we can start thinking about that more often once we have components come up.
Once things come up, we can now that if we approve this one, then that gives us a little precedence that we can look at it. Or does that even matter? Precedence matter?
Well, we don't have to have precedence, but it starts the process. This is the thing that we do.
But we have a history of approving sole source for the pumps and the miscellaneous flight hardware. So that, but we haven't done it on valves and coatings and there's a million little things. So
we're not going to get sole source for drywall or concrete or something like that.
Sure.
But a technical piece of equipment that requires training, requires redundancy, that is consistent with other items. Sometimes you want to have, especially in software, all the software line up so you don't have conflicts. In that area, you do want to do sole source.
Okay.
Well, Orange County Sand District, I think sole source is probably 100 different items. From instrumentation to well, quite a lot of technical things, and they have to go to the board and expand the list if they want. But once that board approves that sole source, then we don't have to go through the writing of the agenda reports. If this is the only sole source that we do, we'll be doing it, as you rehab every pump station. Then I wouldn't go through the process of getting the board to approve a list of things that we should standardize on. You can read the policies and things that Orange County Sand District does, and maybe get some ideas about things that we ought to approve in general, the sole sourcing of, and then you wouldn't have to come to the board, to deal with that.
I have a question for Rob. Do we have extra flight pumps in stock? We do. Okay.
We have a policy now. It's excellent. For every station, we have a backup pump.
For every station?
Right, and this includes buying 3 pumps, 2 for the station, 1 for the shelf. So that's an excellent policy.
And then is our staff qualified to make the changes with those pumps?
Yes.
We don't outsource that. We just do it ourselves.
We take them out. That's why we got the crane truck and everything. We do it all ourselves now.
And they are trained by Flight.
They are trained by Flight?
Yes.
Like, oh, okay.
Light Xylem, yeah, they will come. They come to our yard and give us training at no cost. So yeah.
Does the water district use Flight pumps also?
I don't know what they do in their pump stations. to be
It's a
honest
different kind of pump.
Is it?
It may be Flight.
It could still be
Parade.
Flight, but it's just a different pump.
Yeah,
I'm
but
just
it'd
curious,
be
'cause
totally different.
I've seen those before, like down south, Flight
Yeah.
pumps
Yeah.
at the water district.
They're mostly sewage. The vendor mostly sells sewage equipment, but there's 35 vendors that sell water pumping equipment.
We did have a motion, a second, you have that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, board members.
Thank you, Rob, always.
Mr. President, I have a special request to make. Is it okay if we move item K1, new business, up? Because I know Assistant Secretary Un has to leave early, and there's a video we would like to show the board.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no
okay,
problem.
So, thank you.
Anybody have a problem with that? Didn't think so. Go ahead.
So before you start this, don't start it yet. So we are, I think Secretary Schaefer is going to have another nomination request on this item, but just to let you know, we are submitting an application, award nomination to the CSD conference, the California Special District Association's conference, for outstanding public outreach, and that's our Citizen Environmental Protection Academy. So we've finished the application. Along with the application, we're going to submit this video. So Steve, why don't you please start the video.
Every day, the Costa Mesa Sanitary District is protecting the community's health and the environment. Not all residents are aware that they have a leading sanitary district in their community. Formed in 1944, the Costa Mesa Sanitary District provides wastewater and solid waste collection services to over 116,000 people. Wastewater and solid waste professionals are the quiet heroes of society, making sure our waterways are free of contamination from sanitary sewer overflows and making the most efficient use of landfill capacity through our recycling programs. These professions are often taken for granted since most people don't know where their trash and wastewater goes after it leaves their homes. That's why it's important for us to share our story by inviting the public to learn about our programs, operations, and partner agencies through our Citizens Environmental Protection Academy. The Academy, which is partially funded by a grant from Orange County Waste and Recycling, allows the public to get a free behind-the-scenes look at the Costa Mesa Sanitary District, while also learning how they can do their part to protect the environment. The series includes a tour of the community's first recycling buyback center located at Orange Coast College. While at the recycling center, participants see firsthand how the center collects and bales recyclable materials. The recycling center collects nearly 1,500 tons of recyclable materials per year from district residents. Participants return to CMSD's headquarters, where staff demonstrates how a wastewater cleaning truck is used to maintain and clean our wastewater system, as well as how tablets are used to access sewer maps and information while working in the field. Another day of the Academy is spent at CR&R Environmental Services Materials Recovery Facility. This facility sits on 11,000 acres of land and is permitted to accept 1,800 tons of solid waste per day. Participants get an up-close look at how recyclables are sorted from trash. Every year, CR&R recycles over 27,000 tons of materials from Costa Mesa Sanitary District residents. Ever wonder where the water goes after you flush your toilet? Participants find out when they tour Orange County Sanitation District's wastewater treatment facility in Fountain Valley. This is the third largest wastewater treatment agency west of the Mississippi. They treat and test wastewater for pollutants, work to control sewer odors, monitor the ocean for contaminants, and create soil amendments and renewable energy from wastewater sludge and biosolids. The sanitation district treats 185 million gallons of wastewater a day for over 2.1 million residents in North Orange County. So where does the water go after it's treated? Participants tour the Orange County Water District's groundwater replenishment system and witness state-of-the-art water treatment processes such as microfiltration, reverse osmosis, and ultraviolet light that produces highly purified water. This water is reintroduced into the groundwater basin where it will become clean drinking water for approximately 850,000 Orange County residents. Another portion of the academy includes an introduction to CMSD's wastewater maintenance yard, a nearly 1-acre facility that is used as the base for the district's wastewater operations. District employees demonstrate how closed-circuit television is used to inspect the condition of wastewater pipelines. Participants also tour the Platinum LEED certified building, which is considered one of the most sustainable and energy-efficient buildings in all of Costa Mesa. The Citizens Environmental Protection Academy concludes with the Board of Directors recognizing all attendees for their participation. Each participant receives a certificate of completion and a photo with the board president.
This was a great tour to give you over insight into the huge infrastructure, I gotta say, that we have here in Orange County.
This was a first-class operation from start to finish. They fed us, they gave us so much information, there's so many giveaways, there's so many things to take away from this. I would recommend this to anybody.
Please visit the district's website or call us to reserve your seat at the next Citizens Environmental Protection Academy.
So if we don't win an award, I'm going to be very upset.
That's very good. Is the academy still going?
It will have another one in September. We do 2 a year, and this is going to help promote that. We're going to help promote this program. Thanks to Nabila. She was very active in the academy. Of course, Nalani and Gina as well. And Nalani and Gina did an excellent job. Barry Friedman put the video together for us, and they did a great job. So we'll be submitting that here in a couple of weeks. And it's right up what CSDA is telling us to do. You know, they're always telling specialists, tell your story. Well, this is a class. We're telling not only our story, but we're telling 2 other special districts and a public agency is being help funding this, plus a private entity. So I don't know. I'd be very very upset if we don't win something. So
I would think that the Paris facility should be one of the.
Yeah,
because that is pretty amazing.
It is, and that was the last, the first academy that a lot of the participants wanted to go there. It's a long drive, it's a long day, but we're going to try to work that in the next academy. Maybe instead of making it 3 days, maybe we'll make it 4 days.
Just a
Yeah,
thought, 'cause
yeah.
It's really.
It definitely agreed.
You know what I mean? It's really plus, it's, we haven't been out there in a year or two, but I'm sure it's getting bigger and better.
So I'll leave it with that, and like I said, I think Secretary Schaefer wanted to make a nomination or discuss it.
Right. Yeah. Actually, there's one that's for staff member in that category, and so I would like to nominate Nalani, and I can give you the reasons why you need to vote.
I think we all know all those reasons, to be honest with you. I absolutely agree with you.
Okay, because, I'll have it on paper too for us to see, but anyway, she's really worthwhile to get this, I think.
What does the nomination do?
It's due with this nomination.
Yeah, it's so basically one of the awards is Staff Person of the Year. So any special district can submit or nominate an employee for Staff Person of the Year. So what Secretary Schaefer is requesting is that we submit a nomination for Nalani, and she'll compete with other applications.
Yeah, she, runs our board. She does everything you can think of. So, but I have a list here, but I won't bother you with.
We know.
Oh, it's not bothering us. I think we have so many staff that are well deserving of this, but we probably have more contact with her than anybody, and I think it's pretty obvious that she takes good care of everything.
Well, plus she's educating herself along the way too. A lot of us don't realize how much she's doing as far as for degrees and for the learning process, and she's involved with the Citizens Advisory Committee. In fact, she puts it together more or less. She's over it, and she's over the environmental one. There's just so many things that she's been doing. So I thought it'd be nice to give her some credit and see what we're, I don't know who else of all in California that's submitting names, but I thought we should. So anyway, I'd like to make that motion. Do I have a motion? Yeah. Second.
Do you have any opposition to this? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Arlene.
who will write the application?
Pardon?
Somebody has to write
Yeah.
the application.
Put it together. Yeah. I'll
Well,
get
just
together
give,
with Scott. I
give
can
Scott
give
your
him-
list, just in
Yeah.
case he,
Yeah.
If and when it goes forward, obviously we're gonna want her to attend the conference. And we'll work those details out.
Yeah, and it's in Indian Wells, so it works out.
It's not a state, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks, Arlene. Good job. All right, so that takes care of item new business. We'll go back to local meetings. Jim?
I had the Sand District, Orange County Sand District meeting last night, and Greg Seaborn was reelected president, and the only other thing was we approved our budget of $422 million for this fiscal year, and then $383 million for the next. We have a 2-year budget, you know, so for the next year it went down lower for some reason. And then we also approved the purchase of a building across the street from the Sand District for $18,300,000, and it's 3.5 acres. They're going to level it in a couple of years. You know, it takes a little while to get the tenants out of there, and it'll be the home to. They'll move some of the office facilities across that you know are in existence now, and they'll tear down that whole building. But you know, we should have done this 10 years ago when I was the chairman. I told them to do it, and they
Save some money.
They didn't.
They saved a ton of money. Didn't
Oh man! But so that's all I got.
they? Thank you, Jim. Art?
well, one thing to add, I think it's American Society of Civil Engineers does a ranking of the wastewater processes, and I think Orange County Sand District got an A+,
Oh.
which is unheard of almost.
Art, wait, before you go, I skipped over the treasurer's report because there were no notes in there. Is that,
Yeah, there's nothing there.
is that okay, Steve? Okay, Art, sorry for.
Right before this meeting, we attended the meeting at the Orange County Water District for SARFATS, the full agency meeting where all of the members are invited, just not the executive committee. First thing, we approved the budget for this next year. It stays the same at $1,300 per year. And we had a call in from Jim O'Connell from Washington about the update of the budget. And it's pretty good news, really. He's saying that we were given the Santa River project to the Corps of Engineers was given $40 million, but they're getting an additional $21.3 million, that brings it to 61.3. Then an additional $36.6 million to bring it to $98 million for this next year, 18-19, which is pretty significant. And they're probably going to get the same the following year. So the nation's probably doing pretty good financially for them to approve all of this monies. And the big take is this $98 million is going to be used for a number of different projects along the lower parts of the Santa Ana, below Prado Dam. They're going to be using that. And the county person that was there giving us a report, last year they spent $5 million on acquisitions of the properties behind El Prado. This year they're going to be spending, they've already got approved for $30 million. So they plan on building up the spillway in 2022, which is not that far off. And when they build the spillway, that means all the land behind it has been acquired, which is pretty good.
They're going to raise the level of
Yeah,
that
they're going to
thing?
raise, that's what that's the whole thing for the 100-year flood plan is to raise this. They can't raise it until they buy all the property behind El Prado. So, but it's coming to an end, we think.
Really?
You know, but we think, but we've been on the committee for 20-some years. And each year it's getting a little bit more done, but with this amount of money, it's pretty significant.
You guys can't get it right, you have to keep working on it, is that the?
We want it to end.
Federal
Jim
government.
told him, hey, I don't know if we'll be here when when it ends, but.
They'll put your
hopefully.
names on it, don't worry.
And so, actually, they said raising the spillway is 2021, that's their goal, 2021, so that's not that far off, which is pretty good.
That's, isn't that kind of like prime development land?
Well,
that
they
they're taking?
bought all of the big pieces, and they only count, each one of the big pieces is only one, but now they have to buy all the little ones, and the ones that they don't buy because they can't move them, is they're putting levees around them. That's part of this $98 million. They're gonna build levees to protect them from the flood.
Oh.
So there's like 4 levees that are gonna be, one has already been built by, around the women's prison, but they're building 3 additional levees. Well, actually, 2 they built already.
They're not going back to El Prado Golf Course. Right?
Oh, yeah, that's gonna go part, oh, yeah.
Are they gonna get rid of it?
No, but they're,
They'll build the
they,
levees, right?
I
No,
think
they'll
they own Green River already. They own Green River already, but it's good.
That one could be at risk eventually.
It'll be rare that it'll, you know, it won't be every year that the water goes.
No, I understand.
Yeah, it's
It'll be, Oroville went over last year.
Big time, huh?
we're hoping for more water. But that was basically the high points of it, but that additional money is gonna be really well used.
And that's all federal money.
It's all federal money.
Army Corps, right?
Army Corps.
We went from thinking, the last report we got from DC, we were gonna get 15 million.
Yeah.
And everybody was bummed out, you know. Well, now it's 98 million. I mean, it's just crazy how they.
And with the same amount probably coming the following year, which is pretty significant.
Yeah, but they may cut
But
part of that
it's
98
gonna,
million
they said that
to
it's
wall.
gonna take 250 million to complete the projects.
How much?
250 million to complete the projects, but they're on their way with 98, maybe 98, so they're getting closer.
And insurance rates in Huntington Beach, Garden Grove, Fountain Valley, all those, they're paying $11 million a year with all those properties that are affected. That, when that goes in, that's all gonna go away.
That's not good news. That's not
We're
very
not
good
for
news.
insurance guys. Do we have anybody in Costa Mesa paying for that FEMA fee for the flood insurance?
All of Costa Mesa is in what's called an A99 zone, flood zone, which is not mandatory, but it's optional.
People
By being optional, it's really inexpensive. And we don't get into mandatory AO zones and mandatory zones until you cross the river and go down.
Because we used to have to pay that, remember?
I know, I used to have to pay where I live.
But we were out of the flood zone when they built
All
that
of
channel.
Costa Mesa is in what's called an A99 protected zone.
So the one that gets affected the most is Huntington Beach. They have, their residents pay $5.28 million a year. That's per year. So we're pretty lucky.
Very.
That's my report on it.
Thanks, Rick. Good job. ISDOC, the main topic with ISDOC continues to be the LAFCO dues study, trying to figure out how LAFCO is going to charge dues to districts. Next meeting on the 10th of July. There's no meeting next week. It's on the 10th of July. It's boiled down to 3 proposals: a Santa Margarita proposal, a Mesa Water proposal, and a Yorba Linda Water District proposal. And I understand we're going to try to finally wrap this thing up. To that regard, Scott, can you get some details on talk to ISDOC and see if you can get the 3. I've read it, and maybe Steve, you could look at it for me, the 3 proposals. The one that's coming out that looks most favorable to everybody is the Santa Margarita report. The Yorba Linda report wants it to be based solely on revenue and budget amount. And people like Sanitary District and MODOC, they're gonna pay tons. So if you guys could just take 10 minutes to look at that and let me know what you think by the 10th, I appreciate it. There was an announcement, of course, about the LAFCO Special District Commissioners, and to no one's surprise, Doug Davert and Jim Fissler were put into office. Mr. Fissler commented how he enjoyed the campaign and how good it was to get around and see all the special districts. So thought that was interesting. Also, the meeting on the 5th of June was the last report from John Withers as our LAFCO representative. His LAFCO report talked about a dues increase from LAFCO of 2%. And I'm not sure how that's going to fall into what they're talking about with the new proposal, but that was just. And they're also, LAFCO is looking at their application fee schedule to see if they can make it more equitable. And then at that point, I had another meeting to go to, so unless you had anything else.
Well, Jim and I went to ISDOC today. And
Go to the quarterly luncheon?
Yeah, the quarterly meeting. And so at that meeting, John Withers talked, and his last meeting will be July 8th. And I was thinking we should have something to give him, you know, whether it's a certificate, a resolution, whatever, proclamation, because that's when they're going to do all this.
Okay.
And I think it'd be important because he spent 30 some odd years, I think 34. 24? Okay. I'm getting carried away. But he was on when I was on LAFCO. And yeah, he was just so excellent. He is on everything. So anyway, I think that'd be important.
Yeah, let's look into doing maybe a resolution for Ted.
Mr. President, I have 200 pages of specifications to read by tomorrow.
Yes.
Can I please be excused?
Absolutely.
For our President Pump Station.
You expect
Thank
a
you.
report on those 200 pages.
Okay.
If you don't. Thank you, Rob. CSDA, Arlene?
Yes. First of all, on CSDA, we had our legislation days, and that was in May, the 21st to the 24th. And it was really the best one they've ever had. They had so many people at it. It was so worthwhile. They had a new way of doing it, which meant you went to the Capitol 3 different times, which was a lot, but at the same time, it was really worthwhile. And of course, I have pictures from the senator and the assemblyman's office, and also Milani and Gina went with me. So it was really worthwhile. I want to tell you that September 24th through the 27th will be CSDAs down at Indian Wells. And we need to make reservations to get in there for the hotel because we want that hotel there on the top. Otherwise, what they do is they put you in the next hotel, which a lot of walking down below, or you gotta take a car back and forth, and so.
Did you know if Nalani did that yet?
I don't know. I haven't, you know, Nalani won't be back till what, Monday?
Monday. Well, I'll find out Monday.
Yeah, so 9 out of 10, she probably didn't yet.
Are we all going to be attending? Maybe Bob, are you going to be attending that?
You gonna
I'll
take?
probably go down Tuesday because we'll be wrapping up the fish fry on Monday.
I'll probably go down Monday early.
Or maybe Monday night, I'm not sure.
And again, I'm not included because SDRMA has already made all my reservations.
You gonna go?
I'm going to go, but I'm not going to go down till Monday morning till after the fishing.
That's at Indian Wells again?
Yes, yes it is.
The Esmeralda Hotel.
Yes. So if we can get into that hotel, that'd be perfect, because everything will be happening there and it's easier, so.
Had a conference there before.
And they will have an ethics committee
Well,
meeting.
I don't know. I don't think we have to do that again. We just did it, didn't we?
No,
Nalani would know when you're all up, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's good for 2 years, I believe, isn't it?
Yes, 2 years.
I think I have to. The sexual.
We did that up in
Well,
Monterey.
That was the sexual harassment.
Was that sexual harassment?
And we've done it 3 times.
We'll have to check. Have Nalani check, see if we need it.
So, but the ethics, you know, you might check on that, because I know I'm this year.
I think they have it every year because
Yeah.
it's whenever you started as an elected and
True.
appointed, so
True. That's right,
I think it's every year.
yeah, so.
But
anyway.
I don't know whether we're due or not.
So other than that, we're dark for July for CSDA. And then in August, I have my last board meeting for CSDA, and I'll be reporting on that.
And it's not in Monterey. I had it in Monterey here on my calendar. So it is at Indian Wells.
Yeah.
Okay, SDRMA, I'm wearing the shirt because I just got back from our 2-day board meeting this afternoon. We continue to look for a replacement for our past CEO. President Bracy and I are the subcommittee that are working with our consultant, and they have already gotten 9 applications for CEO. We did appoint, I think I told you, we appointed an interim CEO, Laura Gill, who is the former city manager for Elk Grove, and she's already accomplished a whole bunch of things. We had a interesting conversation yesterday about some members, organizations that are leaving SDRMA. Every year they have to notify us that they're searching for a new carrier or whatever. And the biggest one we lost was the city of Palmdale. And they're worth a lot of premium dollars every year, but they're also had a huge lawsuit that we paid. And the biggest part of it was inverse condemnation. You know, they didn't do their flood control issues, and so a couple of them were lamenting about losing a big premium dollar. And I said, wait a minute, look at what they cost us. And so the other thing that was really a concern was with SDRMA, we provide a lot of reinsurance. In other words, we give basic insurance, but then we buy reinsurance to go for the higher limits. And the reinsurance market is really, really tough right now, and so it's going to cost a little bit more money. But overall, even with the loss of Greg Hall, SDRMA is moving, and we can have all the confidence in the world that things are being taken out. Very pleased with the staff and with what they're doing with it. So that was really it. As far as other meetings, I had a question, Steve. I came in Tuesday and met with the auditor. That's the first time I've ever met with the auditors.
That's what he said.
And he told me that it's required every year for the board president to meet with the auditors.
I don't know that to be true, but he did tell me that you had told him that you had never met before.
Yeah.
And he thought that was very odd.
I don't know if you guys had ever met with the auditors, and he said it was a state law. Did I didn't hear that right?
It might be a new state law.
From him, I heard that it's something normally his firm does.
Okay, maybe that's what he was talking about then. He has some interesting questions, and I was as honest as I could be. He asked about lawsuits, were we involved in any lawsuits? And I talked a little bit about the issues that we have. I didn't go into a lot of detail. That's up to them to figure out. But it was an interesting car. I appreciated the opportunity to talk to these guys. So they were I think they're very pleased with the way we do things here. At least that was my impression. And this is their first year with us, right?
Yeah, and he actually brought 2 people with him, and they were here for 3 days, and very easy to work with. And they gave us a fantastic price. They're actually probably losing money on auditing us, which is
It's called a loss leader in my industry. So, okay. Any other meetings to report on?
I just wanted to say, I went to the last meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee. It was very interesting. I couldn't talk, but in fact, I was sitting down with everybody, and Alan got me and said, "You got to get up here and sit there."
How many? Were you the only one here?
Yeah.
You could have talked.
He told me I couldn't.
Oh.
Who told you not to?
Huh?
Who told you you couldn't speak?
Alan.
What?
What?
A couple board members on the committee.
Well, it
That's
wasn't
okay.
anything
No
to
big
talk
deal.
about for me,
Yeah.
because they were making decisions of what they were going to be doing.
Okay.
And it was just more or less me listening to their opinions. I was very impressed with them because, you know, they put in about 3 or 4 different maps, which was a shock because I thought maybe only a couple would come through. And, you know, they really took it serious and worked really hard on it. So.
In that regard, we had talked, remember at the last meeting, about us talking about the process and what's going on with the maps. And I know Bob's on vacation until the 14th or 15th.
I come back whatever the Friday is around the 13th.
And Nolani will be contacting all of you for a time to meet either the 17th, 16th or 17th.
Right, because they meet on the 18th again.
Yeah, because I think we need to
Is this day or
visit the
night?
issue before they meet at their final, because you had asked about that, remember? So Scott asked Nolani to contact all of you to get a time on either the 16th or 17th when Bob gets back.
Oh, it's the 18th.
They meet on the 18th,
Yeah.
and these are the only 2 days that we could
Oh,
meet as a
okay.
group.
That's fine, I can.
I'll be back on the 13th.
Yeah, that's why we picked those
I
2
can
days.
do 16 or 17
Okay.
because I'm off work.
Then we'll, at the agenda meeting Monday morning, we will remind Nolani.
Okay.
So, okay. All right, if there are no other meetings, go ahead, Art, I'm sorry.
I was with Luke for about an hour or so at the city council meeting. They were talking about the budget. And one of the things John Stevens says is that at the liaison meeting, Luke was at the liaison meeting also, but they talked about the school district not receiving the $225,000 for the schools in Costa Mesa. I think, was that the right amount, Luke? 225,000, and he was expecting the Newport Mesa to come back with and say, hey, we need that money. So I just spoke up and I said, I think we should eliminate the 225,000. I think we should keep at least 100,000 in there for the programs, because they thought all the projects were over. I said, I'm not sure if they're all over or not, but I think at the city council meeting, Stephen says that no one really spoke up about it from the Newport Mesa to try to keep the money. Is that pretty much what he said? So since the school district didn't respond to him, they took the $225,000 out of the budget for the schools, which I thought was pretty important, because I think the
What were they using the money for?
like projects at the school, not for equipment and things like that, for projects, maybe building it, fixing the locker room or the fields, but they are going to have like a $1.8 million budget for projects that the school district could ask for if they have a project to help them pay for.
That would affect the joint use agreement for the fields.
Yeah, probably. I think that's what they're getting at, but I don't know if the school district has plans for that or not. I think they have a.
Well, did they have a representative there?
Yeah, we had 2 of the board members, and then.
That's a lot of money.
Why didn't they say something?
I don't know, because I said I didn't want to speak for them, but I think we should keep at least 100,000 in there. But.
That's strange.
Good job, Art.
And then the meeting itself, I couldn't take the meeting much longer. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Luke. I mean, I'm talking about the city council meeting.
Oh.
The city council meeting. It was kind of different from what I was expecting.
Is there any normal to city council meetings? I mean,
It used to be, but it was a little abnormal. But
Now, let me remind you, this is being taped.
I know, but it's true. I mean,
At
but,
least-
and then Jim and I attended the Waco meeting, but it was mostly about water issues. I took notes, but it doesn't really affect us at all.
okay.
Are you going to say something about Jim's title?
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that part of the agenda today. Jim is the new what do we call it? Chairman of SARFA.
Congratulations.
And he was moving up from the vice presidency to chairman. He was a unanimous selection. And he's going to expedite the meeting so we can get here on time.
I'm motivated.
It's always a good direction. Okay, no other meetings at this point. We are going to adjourn to closed session, conference with legal counsel on 2 items, existing litigation 54956.9D1, Costa Mesa Sanitary District versus Mesa Water District, and also conference with legal counsel on anticipated litigation, Government Code 54956.92, facts and circumstances regarding a letter from attorney Kevin Shankman in March of 2018. Okay, so we are adjourned to closed session.